Gushers were good.
Gushers are good.
Gushers are good.
Before she lives, man.
Hello, everyone.
Just channel Tom Savini.
Create oxygen and fucking kill shit.
What would I do without you?
Hey everybody, I'm Jonathan Doe. I'm a podcaster, YouTuber, and filmmaker.
And my name is Steven. I'm a filmmaker, special effects guy, and a stuntman.
I like collecting oddities, exploring true crime cases, and directing extreme cinema.
If you like blood, gore, creatures, and more, then we've got what you're looking for. You're watching Scream Time.
Jonathan Doe.
Steven Grischuk, how's it going?
It's going great.
Today we are going to be talking about George Romero's 1978 Dawn of the Dead.
We're 5 episodes in now. It's about time we cover a traditional zombie movie.
Yeah, it's a good entry point for anyone who's watching this who doesn't needs to get their foot in the door when it comes to films of this nature. So what is your earliest memory of Dawn of the Dead?
Back in the day at Blockbuster,
Mm-hmm.
we were friends with people behind the counter.
Mm-hmm.
They were in this punk band called Space Milk. So
name.
shout outs to Space Milk because we were underage and they would always hook us up with like rated R movies. And at the time my buddy was like, let's go watch a gory zombie movie. So we picked up Dawn of the Dead. We came home, popped it in the TV in the garage at the time, realized it was the original one, and my buddy was against old movies at the time. So we didn't watch it. We took it back to Blockbuster and got the remake of Dawn of the Dead.
Dang.
I know. So it wasn't until an adult, I was firmly an adult, till I finally saw the original Dawn of the Dead. And awesome movie.
Yeah, for me, I was trying to just get well versed in like horror movies and just like getting to know all the classics. And so I had actually heard of like Night of the Living Dead first. I was pretty young and it was a little hard for me to sit and like watch a black and white movie. So I got a little turned off of it, but I finally like muscled through it and watched it. And when I saw the end, I was like, oh shit. And I realized it was part of like this series of films. And then my buddy showed me Day of the Dead. And for those that don't know, George Romero's original trilogy, which in order goes Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, and then Day of the Dead. In the early 2000s, he decided to continue it with 3 other films, which we'll get into it a little bit. So I didn't really watch them all in order, but I saw Day of the Dead, and I was like, Day of the Dead was fucking incredible. I loved it.
Day is really cool.
But the thing that I think people don't recognize is like all 3 films feel very different.
Yeah.
They have completely different like atmospheres, their tone is different. And Dawn is much more almost like a comic book. The gore is very like the blood is almost pink. I felt a little disappointed by the time I saw Dawn of the Dead because I thought Day of the Dead was so fucking cool. You know, because Day of the Dead is very gory and splattery, and the zombies are really rotten and all this kind of stuff. And in Dawn, the zombies are very just kind of like these pale people. Yeah. But I've grown to love it now that I know the whole original trilogy. It does have its place. It's a significant part of, I think, the universe of horror or the landscape of horror, especially to the genre of zombie films.
I'm glad that you mentioned how much you loved Day of the Dead, because I feel like I like Day of the Dead a little bit more than Dawn. And I think it's because of the more grotesque looking zombies.
Yeah.
They kind of, as for an amazing effects work as Tom Savini does, I feel like Dawn was a little bit, like, the production of the actual zombies was a little bit rushed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the way Day opens with the zombie with, like, no jaw, just, like, tongue hanging out. Mm-hmm. Like, I could watch that scene for hours.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
It's so cool. And some of that really rotted zombie stuff was kind of missing. Mm-hmm. But when the gore does hit in Dawn, it really does hit. Like the guy getting ripped in half with all his guts hanging out and everything.
Mm-hmm. Or the helicopter scene.
Oh, the helicopter scene. It's a great one.
So it definitely has its charm to it. I absolutely love it. The one thing that I think that Dawn of the Dead really has going for it is its premise, because everybody fantasizes about what they would do in a zombie apocalypse. My very first job I ever had, I worked at a water park, and we had the water slides, and I was like, that'd be a good place to like camp out. Like you can sleep on the water slides, and you could fucking snipe the fucking zombies as they try to come up to the top of the water tower. It's actually probably not the greatest idea because you isolate yourself, but as a 16-year-old, I was like, that's what I would do, you know? Well, the idea of it being in a mall, and for those who don't know the premise, it's about people taking refuge inside of a mall, so they've got access to everything in the mall.
It just totally plays into that little kid fantasy of, like, if an apocalypse happened and I had every resource on God's green earth available to me, you'd just be a kid in a candy store.
Well, just the idea of having free reign in a mall is pretty fucking cool.
Oh,
like, in
so
itself.
fun.
But then throw in zombies, and it's like, oh, hell yeah. Like,
it's like we're getting baseball bats, we're going to the... If you've ever fantasized about being in a store after hours, just imagine what it would be like if every store was after hours all the time.
Yeah, it's funny. This is totally sidetracking, but I've heard stories about people being like locked in Walmarts and stuff, and they're like freaking out. I'd be chilling, dude.
As a kid, I always had a fantasy to be locked in a Walmart for like during the apocalypse, and I'm just like, dude, I'd be making like pillow forts. I'd be eating like all the frozen foods. You just pop them in a microwave, you know. I would have lived it up.
I'd get sick on Gushers for sure.
Gushers?
Gushers
were good.
Gushers are good.
Gushers are good.
Yeah. They're not just for kids.
They're
for 34-year-old men like me.
They're for big kids.
Yeah.
Dude, when you watch a zombie movie, doesn't it just bring the big kid out in all of us?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, there's no responsibilities anymore? Throw all caution to the wind. Let's drive the car through the wall. Let's do it. Let's do it up.
Dawn of the Dead is where kind of the fascination and love for this zombie genre, like, I mean, obviously it starts with Night of the Living Dead, but Dawn of the Dead, like, really planted that idea of, like, fantasizing about surviving the zombie apocalypse. It's important to talk about the different series that were kind of, like, built out of it. There's Romero's original trilogy that he did, which is Night, Dawn, and Day. But then he would go on to, in 2005, he'd make Land of the Dead. 2007 would be Diary of the Dead. Found footage was kind of starting to get popularity, and so he wanted to dive into found footage as well. And then he'd go on to make Survival of the Dead in 2009. And I think it's a much weaker trilogy than the other ones. But I mean, if you're a Romero fan and you're a zombie fan, then it makes sense that you want to watch all 6 of them.
Trying to keep them all straight is like impossible. Day, Dawn, Night, Return, Survival, Diary of the Dead. You're just like, oh my god, it's too many of the deads to keep straight.
Basically, when making Night of the Living Dead, another individual that was involved was John Russo. And John Russo, basically Romero and Russo split. Russo got the rights to Of the Living Dead name. And then Romero had the rights to just make sequels. And so that's why you've got Return of the Living Dead, Return of the Living Dead 2, 3, I think there's 5 of them. And then you've got basically this split off that started at Night of the Living Dead. You can go down the route with Romero, or you can go down the route with Russo. They both feel very different. I mean, Return of the Living Dead has its own fan base. It's very like punk rock fucking...
I love it.
It's a blast.
It's a super fun movie. The gore effects are over the top, but it is tonally completely different than Romero's work.
I do like that you can like really go into the canon of either one. Also, some influence that Dawn of the Dead had was it was marketed in Italy as zombie. And then in 1979, they were trying to capitalize on the success of Dawn of the Dead, aka Zombie, in Italy. So at the time, Lucia Fulci was also working on a zombie film, and they wanted to capitalize on it, so they wanted him to make Zombie 2. And it's my understanding that he wasn't actually... He was working on his film Zombie with no intention of it having any relationship with Dawn of the Dead, but they wanted to market it that way. So then he comes out with Zombie 2. Well, Dawn of the Dead gets to be known internationally as just Dawn of the Dead. and you've just got this Zombie 2 film like floating around, like what the fuck is what's Zombie 1? And that created its own canon. And so then you've got Fulci along with Bruno Mattei would make
God.
Zombie 3, which I showed you because I think it's fucking incredible.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, I fell in love. He's like, you've never seen Zombie 3? I'm like, no, I gotta check it out.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, amazing.
It's the most Italian thing in the fucking world.
It feels super Italian. It feels super Italian. And you can absolutely see where Fulci had his hand in production, and you can see where Mattei took over. It's super funny, because Fulci is so recognizable. Mattei is just not as proficient a filmmaker.
No.
But he definitely threw a lot of stuff at the wall and hoping it would stick.
Well, that's pretty incredible. Like, there's some of the gnarliest explosions and zombie fights, I think, in the genre in that movie. It's just fucking, it's ridiculous. It makes no sense. It's really hard to follow its narrative, but you're like, that scene was fucking cool.
It was way cool.
Yeah, hell yeah. Then we have Zombie 4, which is called After Death, which isn't very good, but the zombies come from voodoo, and I fucking love voodoo. Voodoo's like my thing, so...
Voodoo's cool. We need more voodoo zombie movies.
Yeah, voodoo zombies are sick.
More voodoo everything movies.
Yeah.
Voodoo's just kind of cool.
I mean, on a side note, I've been actually kind of fucking around with voodoo a little bit in my personal life, and it's interesting, for sure.
Fun.
So, don't fuck with me, I'll fucking curse you. And then there's Zombie 5 called Killing Birds, which is a terrible fucking movie. So, there's the Of the Dead canon, there's Of the Living Dead canon, and then there's the Zombie 2 canon.
Oh, yeah.
And the Zombie 2 canon splits off into like 5 different groupings. So you've got in Britain, they call it Zombie Flesh Eaters. There's Zombie Flesh Eaters 1, 2, and 3, which is actually Zombie Flesh Eaters 1 is Zombie 2, Zombie Flesh Eaters 2 is Zombie 3, Zombie Flesh Eaters 3 is Zombie 4, and they've got shit like Zombie Holocaust in there. They've got anthropophagus. Depending on the country, you've got anthropophagus. You've got they
got anthropophagus in there to piggyback off of this as well.
Yeah,
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, there's like the Thai canon for basically the order just gets all fucked up. It just goes from it does Zombie 2 and then it just gets crazy.
It's like we have Russo and we have Romero, and then from there it's just like everybody hurled all their ideas out there.
Yeah,
and it's all sorts of convoluted.
But it all goes back to Dawn of the Dead.
Yes.
So or
Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah. So it's a fucking rabbit hole to go down if you really want to dive into it, and that's actually one of the reasons why I really wanted to talk about this film with screen time. The popularity of people wanting to get more into underground cinema. Each genre splits off into subgenres and all kinds of shit, and even just one film can split off into a whole bunch of stuff. Dawn of the Dead is like a fantastic example of just how the roots just go deep into the ground of this kind of shit.
From more surface level well-known films, even though Romero got his start making independent cinema, he spawned big blockbuster zombie movies like Dawn and Day and all that kind of stuff. People like you and me were inspired by it. I was inspired by it to make this zombie in my film Vapor Green, which I kept sitting there when I was getting ready to sculpt this, going, just channel Savini, just channel Tom Savini, and it actually turned out looking more Italian. It's definitely more an Italian-looking zombie, so very much like your Burial Ground.
That's a Burial Ground one for sure.
Oh, totally. Like rubber mask and everything.
Yeah.
Because in Burial Ground, they're all running around in rubber masks, which is a great movie, too.
I'd say if you like, if you're a fan of stuff like Zombie 3, Burial Ground's fantastic. It's goofy as fuck.
So goofy.
It's super fucking Italian.
Yeah. If only people who know what that means know what that means.
Yeah. Italian cinema has a tendency to be like, you're watching it and you're like, that was super cool, but I have no idea what's going on right now.
But you can smell a hint of oregano everywhere you go. Yeah.
Yeah. I had a friend who was telling me, he's like, I want to see every zombie film ever made.
Oh, good
And
Lord.
I went, that's a very naive statement. There's no way. You don't have time.
Like you mentioned in the Blair Witch episode, you were trying to do that with found footage and realized very quickly, like, this is impossible.
There are very obscure genres and subgenres or whatever where you could see all of them, you know?
Pseudo snuff, maybe, you can get away with.
Yeah.
Something like that, maybe. There's
Not possible.
probably as many zombie films as there are comedy films, just generally speaking. Like, everyone and their grandma's made a zombie movie.
Yeah.
My film, Vapor Green, where I made that zombie, isn't necessarily a zombie film, but I really wanted to pull off a Fulci-esque kind of a deal. A burial ground Fulci thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little bit of everything there. And I was trying to channel Savini, but the scene wasn't lending itself to that. So I went full-blown pasta town on the whole thing. Dude, I ate pasta like 5 times in a week, like last week.
Really?
Like 5 days in a row. Had spaghetti. The next day I had spaghetti. The next day I had lasagna. I'm pretty burnt out on pasta.
I'm on a health kick right now, and I've not eaten pasta in a while. I'm a little jealous.
You know what? I've more than compensated for your lack of pasta eating. The amount of pasta that this body has consumed. You're better at this than I am.
I guess to cap off on the influence that it's had is in 2004 there was a remake that was made, which I will say objectively is actually a really good film. Obviously your friend wanted to watch that instead of the original.
Mm-hmm. And I wasn't mad. It was a good movie.
I remember actually seeing it in theaters, and the scene where the guy throws the propane tank and then they shoot it and it blows up. A man actually stood up and applauded. And I was like, hell yeah. Like, that was cool.
They really didn't pull any punches in that film,
mm-hmm.
which was cool, because a lot of the remakes get really, they get Hollywooded up.
Mm-hmm.
So they get kind of glossy and easy watch, and that one really wasn't.
That was a pretty well-made remake. I still don't like remakes, but, but yeah.
Yeah, solid film. Well, do you have a favorite sequel of these? Or anything that falls underneath that crazy tree, except for Zombie 3? Because I know how you feel about Zombie 3, it's great. But I really like Return of the Living Dead.
I would say, in terms of Romero's films, I like Day the best. But my favorite zombie film of all time is Fulci Zombie, Fulci Lives, man. So, yeah, Zombie 2 fucking rules. I do definitely appreciate the original trilogy that he made. I'm not a huge fan of the ones that he made after that. And definitely Return of the Living Dead has it's got a sick punk vibe for sure.
Oh yeah, you put it on, you can hear TSOL in there and all these cool punk tracks and everything, so they're great.
Yeah. So
as far as American filmmakers go, Romero is kind of talked about in a fairly positive light, generally speaking. He's made quite the impact with his zombie films.
Yeah. So
when people talk about Tobe Hooper or Sam Raimi, all these kind of heavy hitter American guys, Romero's name's always thrown in there.
I would say that he's in the top. I would almost narrow it down to the top 5 most iconic horror directors, American horror directors. In terms of household names people fucking know, we could probably walk into someone's parents' house and be like, oh, George Romero, and they'd be like, oh yeah.
Yeah. The Italians had people like Fulci,
mm-hmm.
and we had Romero.
If you're dipping your toes into the zombie genre, I would say his original trilogy is essential viewing. I always fucking say this. All the fucking all the titles we pick we're showing because we think that they have an importance. So
spoiler alert.
I think they're all part of your homework.
Well, Jonathan Doe, looks like we have more thunder and lightning, so you know what that means. It's time for Mr. Mac's 30-second horror movie review.
Let's do it.
Awesome.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Mr. Mac's 30-second film review. And the film we're reviewing today is Hotel Inferno.
Start the clock!
Just in case you guys were wondering if the Italians were going to make their way onto this list, the Italian company Necrostorm makes really great splatter films, and this is a great place to start with their catalog. If you're looking for modern-day splatter films, which are just a blast and covered in gore, then this is the film for you. The whole movie is filmed from the first-person perspective, so all the gory bits are here on display for us to see, in very graphic detail. If blood is what you need, then this movie has exactly what you're looking for. Keep up the good work, you crazy Italians. That's a spicy meatball. This has been Mr. Mac's 30-second film review. Now let's get back to the show.
Thank you for your review, Mr. Mac. Appreciate that over here. Oh, wow.
Thanks, bro.
Thank you. Oh, God. Okay. Is it a hula skirt?
I guess it's
Oh, wow. Glue. Okay.
build it yourself.
Yeah, like we're supposed to read this, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Try again, please. I knew he was playing.
That's more like it. Here you go, John. You can have that.
Thank you.
All right, John. Let's see where our mail comes from today, huh? Our mail today comes from my fiancée, Michelle. She says, "Hey guys, if you could own any skull of any animal, what would it be? Also, what is your favorite flavor ice cream and why?" One of these days I'm going to hit that camera.
Yeah.
I'm trying. I am trying. One of these days.
That'll be a good cut. You can go first.
Okay. I have a pretty good response because I've actually thought of this before.
Mm-hmm.
If I could have, and I have a cool reason why I would pick this particular animal,
Okay.
which I want to tell that story too. I would pick an elephant skull because I know it's not like practical to have an elephant skull in your house because they're enormous.
Mm-hmm.
Rumor has it that ancient man way back when created the concept of the Cyclops because they found an elephant skull. An elephant skull has a huge hole right in the middle for the trunk and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like a huge hole for like an eye socket. Primitive man was under the impression that an elephant skull actually belonged to a Cyclops. Like a giant one-eyed humanoid creature.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
It's so cool. I really hope that's true.
Mm-hmm.
So for that alone, so I could tell people that story, I would probably pick an elephant skull.
That's really cool. For those who have been watching this show and know me, I do like to collect oddities and stuff, so I have quite a bit of skulls in my collection already. My holy grail was getting a human skull, and I finally got a human skull. Now, if I were to get anything, it doesn't even really particularly matter the species, whether... It'd be cool if it was human, but if it was an animal, it'd be cool too. I'd want something that has some kind of deformity. I've seen conjoined twins where it's like two skulls together. Something like that would be really cool.
Is that more expensive?
Any kind of deformity jumps up the price a lot. You can get a fox skull or a raccoon skull for fucking $20, right? But if you get one and it's two conjoined twins together and it's all mangled, well, that's one of a kind.
Wow, it looked like you have the Thing living in your house.
Yeah. So
that's cool.
I heard a rumor that like Michael Jackson back in the day wanted to get the Elephant Man's remains, and I don't know if he was actually able to or not. I like to collect wet specimens, and so I've seen like conjoined kittens and stuff. But yeah, I'd want to get a skull of pretty much anything deformed.
That's a really cool thought.
So
you know what would be a cool one too is hammerhead sharks.
Yeah.
They have a very weird skull. There's not very much to it. It just kind of, that whole flat hammer shape just kind of is outlined by bone. So that's kind of an unusual skull.
Sharks are mostly cartilage, and it's really just their teeth that is bone. If you let a shark decay and like have everything, or you boiled it or something, people use beetles or boil things or whatever to get all the meat off so you get to the bone. Well, because sharks are mostly cartilage, you always just end up with those teeth.
Sharks are just a giant underwater tube with teeth.
Yeah,
there's no reason for them to be here except for to eat stuff.
I heard sharks have been around, like are one of the longest living species of anything. Like I heard sharks and trees are like the two things that have been around the longest. So create oxygen and fucking kill shit.
So now the really heavy-hitting question: ice cream.
Well, we've had this conversation before.
We've had heated conversations about ice cream.
Yeah, we have. I tend to be a minimalist when it comes to any kind of sweets. I don't like a whole bunch of extra shit. I want to just focus on the flavor. And I think when you make a fucking triple chocolate brownie fucking macchiato ice cream fuckfest, you're not eating. You're just eating like chaos. You're not individually tasting anything.
Yeah.
It's just whatever. And so like strip it down to its basic components. You know, like I like strawberry ice cream. Give me strawberry ice cream. Give me vanilla ice cream. Vanilla ice cream is good. But I don't need all that extra crazy stuff. And when people add layer on layer on layer, you fucking lost the plot, dude. To quote Gordon Ramsay.
What sparked this heated debate we had a long time ago was we were watching Chocolate Strawberry Vanilla,
Which is a good movie.
which is an awesome film. If you guys haven't seen it, it's great.
Mm-hmm.
True crime aficionados will see correlations between that and a
Ricardo Lopez, the Bjork stalker.
yes,
I felt like there's some correlation between that and that film.
100%.
Yeah.
There has to be. I don't eat a lot of sweets, but when I do eat ice cream, you can throw everything in there and it's going to be awesome. Give me the chunks of Snicker bar, give me the peanuts, give me the M&Ms, just throw it all in there. So whatever you got, hit me with it, especially if it's got chocolate and peanut butter in it. Something like Rocky Road, freaking gangster. It's good, dude. Embrace the chaos.
I think if I blindfolded you and said take a spoonful and eat that and tell me the different notes of flavor between all of that, you've just got a fucking bukkake in your mouth.
What is it? Oh, well, don't ruin ice cream for me. Like, I still like it. Like, come on. Had to go there.
There's such thing as too much. So
maybe I'll just get vanilla next time.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for the question, Michelle. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
Any final words on George Romero's Dawn of the Dead?
I don't know, I'm like brain freezing right now.
Brain freezing from ice cream.
I think my bukkake comment was a little too spicy for you too.
Yeah, like my brain's like, well, let's just end the episode. Just like, what are your final thoughts after that? Like, a bukkake ice cream sundae. Okay, we're done here. Oy, 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 oy.
I think that Dawn of the Dead.
Do you know?
I think that Romero's original trilogy is awesome. I think you should watch it in chronological order. I don't think Dawn of the Dead is the strongest of the three, but I think it is a film that you should see, especially if you're trying to dive into horror movies and shit like that. Yeah, so I don't fucking know, dude. We already fucking said anything.
Who would have thought such an innocent question would have provoked such an aggressive response?
I'm feeling feisty today, I don't know what to tell you.
When are you not feisty, John?
I don't know.
John's ready to go.
I'm just X-rated all the time, you know. So, not. This
I can attest to that. I hang out with John every week, so yeah.
I mean,
but would we have him any other way? No. We respect you for it. That's why everyone's here.
Yeah. I mean, you know what you're in for. I put warnings on all my fucking videos, and I still get fucking people being like, "You should have warned me beforehand." Bitch, you fucking came here.
It's like that whole thing. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. You came looking for gnarly stuff, and when you found gnarly stuff, you cried about it.
Yeah, you're like, I want to find ISIS videos. Then you find ISIS videos, and you're like, this shouldn't be on the internet. And it's like, it's not really. You had to work really hard to find it, dude. You're on Cinema's underbelly, dude. We're under here. We're down in the mud.
Hell yeah. And you guys have been watching Screen Time. Best show to hit the internet.
Bukkake Tsunami. Listen to that from Cattle Decapitation.
Actually, a pretty decent song.
Yeah, it's pretty sick.
Yeah. But you've ruined ice cream for me forever.
No ice cream for you anymore.
No ice cream, period. Like, Steven, would you like ice cream? No, it's okay.
Well, I'm glad I've left that impact on your life.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, you're
What would I do without you? Tune in next time for another episode of Scream Time.
Yeah. I scream, you scream, we all scream for Bukkake ice cream.
That was worse than the last one. That was worse than the last one. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Dawn of the Dead, great film.
Hail Satan.
Hail the rubber chicken.
Hail whatever you want. Hail yourself.
Hail hello. I'm out of here.
Stupid dude.